I'm going to copy this right here. Now, when Xcode builds my plugin, it puts it in its build products derived. I need to tell Xcode attached with a debugger, but Xcode doesn't know where to find my plugin yet. So I'm getting a message in the debug console, no plugins found. I need to figure out how to tell Xcode, where to find my plugin. Xcode is instructing me that I can pass extra plugins path in the environment, and this is how I'll tell it where to find my plugin. I'm going to copy this right here. Now, when Xcode builds my plugin, it puts it in its build products derived. I need to tell Xcode where my build product there is. I also do that in the run settings. If I switch to the arguments tab, I'll see a section for environment variables. Create a new one and paste in extra plugins path. Now, how do I know where my build product there is? Xcode actually provides it in a build setting. This way I don't have to know where it is in case I move my project or reconfigure it otherwise. So what I'm going to do here is click and use a $brace build products dir. And the $brace or parenthesis syntax tells Xcode to expand this build setting in this value when it launches the host application. If you look at our documentation, you'll find a list of useful build settings. The only thing left is to tell Xcode which target to get that build setting from, and I'm going to select Fizz Blasters right here. Let's run again. So here's Xcode, and it found Fizz Blasters. Great. So that's how you can use custom executables and environment variables from build settings. All right. I'd like to hand over to Rick to tell you more about how to work with your build products.
Thanks, Mirza. I'm going to show you how you can work with and customize your build products. But first, let's talk a bit about where they go. Every workspace has its own derived data directory, and that's where we put derived data, your source code index, your build logs, your save Windows state goes in there, and your build products and intermediates by default. Workspaces are distinguished by path. So if you have multiple copies of the same workspace, they actually get their own derived data directory because they're at different paths. So I'm going to show you how we can dive in and customize where this derived data goes. Great. In Xcode, if you go to Xcode's preferences, there's a locations preference panel. And here you can see that there's a derived data setting. This allows me to control exactly where my derived data goes. And if I click this arrow, Xcode will bring up the derived data location in Finder. Here you can see I've got a bunch of different folders with kind of a long gibberish suffix after that. Well, each of these folders are each workspaces per workspace derived data directory. And they're named after the workspace they apply to and have appended a hash that's generated from that workspace path. So it can disambiguate which one goes with which workspace. If I look inside one of these, you'll see that I have build products and an index and stuff like that. So one thing I might want to do, by default this goes in my home library folder, but one thing I might want to do is put it in a secure location, like an encrypted disk image, for security reasons. So it's actually really easy to do that. Go back to Xcode here, and I can choose a different location for my derived data. So I'm going to choose custom, and I'll bring up the file chooser, and I've got a secure disk image here, and I'm going to name this one secure derived data. And if I choose this, all my derived data for all my projects go into folders, per workspace derived data folders, at that location instead of in my home library folder. I might also want to set this on a per workspace basis. If, say, different workspaces need to go into different secure disk images, like maybe I'm a consultant and I have different clients who have different security needs. So I'm going to set this back to default and close my preferences. If I go to the File menu, I can choose Project Settings, or if this is an explicit workspace document, it would be called Workspace Settings. And here I get a sheet that gives me the same control, so I can set a custom derived data location on a per workspace basis. Okay, Another thing I might want to be able to do is find my build products so that I can easily manipulate them directly or inspect them. So, say I want to use the nm tool to inspect the symbol table of my build product. Let me show you how to do that. First, I'm going to launch terminal, and I'm going to type xcrun nm. nm. Xcrun will find nm in my installed Xcode and launch it out of there. And I'll pass -a to say I want to dump the whole symbol table. And now I need to pass it the path to my build product. So let's figure out how to get that in Xcode. If I go back here and click the Advanced button, I'll get a sheet that gives me direct control over exactly where my build products go. It also has these fields down at the bottom that show me the path to my build products and my build intermediates. And I can just click this button here to bring up the build products folder for this workspace. You can see I've got a per configuration derived build directory in here. And there's my build product. So I'm just going to drag this right into terminal to paste in its path. I'm also going to supply the path to the binary inside this bundle. And there's my symbol table. That was pretty easy. Okay, another thing I might want to do is share build products. As I said, by default, each workspace gets its own derived data directory with its own build products so that one workspace doesn't get mixed up with another. It doesn't clobber another workspace's build products or accidentally link against something that was produced by a different workspace. But sometimes I actually want to intentionally share build products between multiple products or projects or workspaces. So for example, let me close this down. I have my Spiff Blasters plugin here, and it goes into the build products directory, and Quarks Arcade knows to look for it there now. But I have another plugin project called Super Xcode World. And I want Super Xcode World to also get picked up by Quarks Arcade at the same time when it launches, so I load both plugins. Since Quarks Arcade is just looking at my build products directory, that means they both need to be in the same build products directory, both plugins. So there are a couple ways I can do this. The first way is to put both projects into the same workspace. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new workspace, and I'll call it Quarks Arcade Plugins. I'll just stick this on my desktop. And now I can go ahead and drag in both the Spiff Blasters project and the Super Xcode World project. And now, since both projects are in the same workspace, they're both going to use this workspace's derived data directory as long as I have the workspace open here. And that means that their build products are going to go in the same build products directory. So I can select my Super Xcode World scheme and just build. So that'll put its plugin in my build products directory. And the same Spiff Blaster scheme that I set up before is available through the workspace because it's in that project here. So when I build and run, it'll still launch Quarks Arcade, and it's still set up to look at my build products directory. And you can see Quarks Arcade now finds both plugins in the build products directory at once. Okay, what if I want to do something similar, sharing build products, but I don't actually want to have to put all the projects I'm working with into one workspace and have them all open at once? There's a way to do that too. I'm going to close my workspace and open Spiff Blasters back up. Go back to File, Project Settings, Advanced, which is where I get direct control over where my build products go. You see, one of the options here is Shared Folder. When I choose Shared Folder, my workspace will put its build products into a folder of the name I specify here inside the derived data location, instead of into this per workspace derived data folder. So I can call this shared folder Quarks Arcade Plugins, and if I were to open Super Xcode World and set shared folder there to the same folder, then both these workspaces would build into the same folder, and Quarks Arcade would be able to find both plugins the same way. I can also set this globally for all my projects if I really want to in Xcode's location preferences the same way. Okay, I'm going to show you something else now. Often you may have an external tool or script that you want to run on your build products outside of Xcode. But the problem you run into is, how does that tool know where to find your build products, especially if it's running on like an automated server or something like that? There are a couple different ways you can tell external tools how to find your build products. The first way is to choose a location where you're going to place those build products yourself and tell Xcode to put them there, and then tell that external tool the same location. So if I choose custom here, I'm going to choose an absolute location, and I'll use the file picker under products, choose my secure source disk image, and I'll create a products folder here, create that, and choose it. And now this workspace will put all its build products at that location. So since that's a path that's known to me, I can just give that path to my external tool or script, and it will know how to find my build products there too. Well, what if I don't want to abandon per workspace derived data directories, because I'm working with multiple copies of this workspace and I don't want them to clobber each other, but I still want to give my products path to an external tool? There's another way I can do that. I'm going to leave this set to the default location and dismiss this sheet. And I'm going to bring up terminal again. And to do this, I'm going to use Xcode build to print out the build settings of this target. So I'm going to say Xcode build and pass the -show build settings command line flag. Now I need to pass -project and give it the path to my project. So I'll drag in Spiff Blasters to paste that in. Now I need to say -target and say which target's build settings I want to see. So it's the Spiff Blasters target. Now when I hit return, Xcode build prints out all the build setting values from this target. So if I do a find here and search for built products dir, you can see that it's printed out the location where my build products are. So I could have my external tool or script run this same command itself and parse out the build products dir value from this output and look there to find the build products that it wants to find. Great. There's one more thing you often do with your build products, and that's to clean them out so you can do a clean build. In Xcode, when you use the clean command, we will analyze the targets in your selected scheme and delete the primary product of each of those targets so that you start over clean. Sometimes this can take a little while, and the other downside here is it can sometimes miss files. If you have a copy files build phase or run script build phase that lay things down in the products directory that aren't in your actual product, the clean command doesn't know how to remove those. So sometimes, both for speed and for thoroughness, it makes more sense to just delete your build products folder outright. And I know a lot of you go and do this in Finder often. Well, there's a way to do it straight from Xcode, which is more convenient. If you hold down the Option key, the clean command turns into a clean build folder command. If you choose that and confirm the sheet, we just delete the build products folder outright. All right, that's about enough about build products. I'm going to go back to slides. And let's move on to talk about how to manage your schemes and share them with your coworkers.